been some of the successes of the Coast Guard athletic program this past year, and what are your goals looking forward, let's say 5 years, for Coast Guard athletics?
Sure, that's a good question. It's one that it changes some as we go along, not day to day necessarily. I felt in general when I got here that there were a lot of things that needed to be freshened and changed. And it doesn't take, you never want to change. You never want to change just for the sake of change. That's the wrong way to go, and it's misleading to people. But an example that I noticed before I even took the job was the CGAsports.com website, which was in great need of renovation, for want of a better word. Websites for college athletic programs have become their newspapers, effectively day to day, and I didn't feel like we had a good communication tool, and I also didn't feel like we had a communication tool that stood the test of what this academy should look like to people on the outside. We had one picture image on the face of that site, and it was Eagle. And Eagle is certainly a dominant image in the Coast Guard, but it really has nothing to do with our athletic program day in and day out. So we relaunched the site in August, and we've incorporated a lot of new features, and the reaction to that has been very good. When I came here too, I was startled about, unfortunately, the amount of money that athletes were required to spend on equipping themselves to play sports. As an example, we had football players, soccer players, track runners buying their own shoes, buying team sweats, things like that. So with a great deal of assistance from Captain Bob McKenna and Community Services Command, we were able to form a partnership with Adidas America to be our exclusive shoe and apparel provider for our entire 21 sport program, which enables us to not only purchase supplies, team uniforms, all kinds of other gear, shoes, sweats, things like that, at a greatly reduced price off retail. But it also, the adjacent effect has been one that's been tremendous in morale. To see the reaction of the young people to realizing that they have, that they have a lot of new stuff. As crazy as it sounds, our young people are just like every other 18 or 19-year-old college athlete in America. They buy with their eyes. And that happens in recruiting. When they walk around this place, it's very impressive. And then, frankly, it scared me when we were putting a 9-year-old football helmet on somebody like that. I didn't think, given the cost per cadet we pay here that the government pays to educate and grow these officers in their 200-week experience. Probably seems like 200 years to them at some point, but their 200-week experience. I didn't think we were doing right by them. I didn't think we were providing what we needed to provide. So that partnership has been significant. And the retail tie into the Community Services Command, our Coast Guard athletic gear and apparel, our authentic team apparel, is now being carried in other Coast Guard exchange stores all over the Coast Guard system. So I think that's a great exposure, and I think it's a great tie back at the same time. Some of the other things that we did that were interesting and fun, cadet life is hard. These young people, they lose weight. It's hard for them to eat right sometimes. So we have a partnership, as crazy as it sounds, to provide them with chocolate milk after practice and after training. Chocolate milk is the safest supplement that an athlete can use, and we are very fortunate to have a strong local partnership with a guided dairy that enables us to provide athletes with a 14-ounce bottle of Dutch chocolate milk every day after practice. And again, it's a 400-calorie and protein shot, but at the same time, this is saying, hey, these people care about me, that we have this. The other thing I did that is less visible, but I think has kind of governed our program, I noticed when I got here that there wasn't a lot of any real strategic planning done, and so as a result, we had people performing capably in their jobs, but they weren't moving in any particular direction. They weren't, they didn't necessarily have a path to go down. The Admiral and I agreed when I got here that within the first 6 months that I would author a study on the state of the department. And out of that came a candid assessment of our capacities and abilities in about 20 different categories, and it also came recommendations for things that we needed to do right away if we were going to change. The nice thing about that now, for the trustees, for the Academy administration, against the recommendations of the study, I'm able to provide metrics about where we are. And, you know, you don't want to rely on one, we need to be transparent, and we absolutely are. Secondly, you don't want to rely on arbitrary means to measure. And now we have things to measure against. It's like when I talked about recruiting. We have a 65% conversion rate. When I sat down with the coaches at the beginning of the year, we talked as a staff about things that we wanted to do in terms of accomplishment and achievement over the course of the year. We want every team that was eligible for NUMAC championship play. For example, soccer teams going to end of season tournament, we wanted to make all those opportunities. We wanted to place in the top half of the NACTA President's Cup. We wanted to place at least 4 teams in the NCAA tournament. So we put those metrics out there, and we're not going to hit them all, but we're going to measure against them. And I think when you start to apply metrics, that's where the lines, fortunately, between administration and coaches in terms of how they work together, they start to blur in a way that you want them to blur, and that's where you develop a sense of mission out of those kind of things. And we're not there yet, but we're getting there.